Welcome to Collaborating from Design to Experience, introducing Centra with Ayelet Paz Ackler, Justin Ison, Dan Giordano, and Netta Vivi. So up first, we have Ayelet. Ayelet is a product design lead at Applitools and a professional UX expert with extensive experience in tech industry, both in enterprise and SMB companies. She spent the past few years working in fast-paced startups, leading design teams to create impactful experiences for mobile and B2B SaaS products. She thoroughly understands the end-to-end design process from research to delivery and is well-versed in agile methodologies and organizational processes. Next, we have Justin Ison, who has more than 20 years of experience in software development and product management. Justin uses his knowledge and skills in automation and software development to bring viable and successful products to our customers here at Applitools. And then we have next up is Dan Giordano, who's a web developer turned developer marketer and has over a decade's experience building and growing open source tools and services like Swagger, Jenkins, Selenium, Gatsby, and others. As the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Applitools, he enjoys translating the benefits of new technologies of businesses to all sizes. And Netta Avivi is our VP of Product Management, and she'll also be joining us in the chat to help answer your questions. So Netta is an experienced product executive with over 15 years of experience in software development and product management. She has worked in a large range of companies of different sizes in various industries. Her extensive experience has helped her acquire an in-depth understanding of technology and products and people. She's led, planned, and shipped outstanding products to satisfy customers. And that will be your panel for today. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A tab as they come up.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about Applitools' newest product, Centra. It's a collaboration platform for teams to use from design to production. And for the most part, we'll be talking a lot today about really honing in on the UI and the front end of applications. Again, both from a tester's standpoint, from a development standpoint, and the design standpoint. And really, the user interface is becoming the last frontier of differentiation for companies of all sizes. When you think about what a digital presence means in 2023. You used to just need to have a website and kind of exist on the internet, then really became having an app and having app-like functionality, taking orders, doing things kind of in the Web 3.0 world or Web 2.0 world. And now really it is the brand, it's the UI, it's what it looks like is now actually something that is a huge differentiation. You can see on the right here is actually mock-ups for Robinhood, which is a trading application. And when you think about banks, when you think about financial institutions, a lot of the services that they offer digitally are exactly the same, right? The services, the data they all kind of get to tap into, a lot of that has been commoditized. What hasn't been commoditized is the actual experience with the digital online experience, the actual touching of the application, the actual what it looks like and how you do actions. Robinhood was able to come in and build $1 billion business in a world where there are several 100-year-old $1 billion companies that were doing this exact same thing. And really, they were able to dominate the space quickly with the ease of their UI UX. They put more time, put more effort into it than other traditional companies. And really, they were able to see the fruits of their labor in bottom line and top line increases. Design-led companies like Robinhood outperform normal S&P 500 by 219% over the past 10 years. This is done by a think tank, Design in Tech, but we've really seen a growth in design emphasis from Apple, from Tesla, from companies that are really large, all the way down to the smallest companies that are building SaaS tools that are using component systems, using best-in-breed design patterns out of the box. So really, we're becoming a lot more cognizant of what design does for your application, for your business. But validation of that design, validation of that entire user interface it often comes down to a tiny part of the design lifecycle. It's oftentimes left up to the QA team to, within their normal bounds of testing, within that small CI/CD pipeline, within all of those changes that are happening, for them to also keep up with actually validating that the UI looks correctly, that it matches requirements, and that it's getting shipped into production at a level that the rest of the team here, that the VP of design, the UX researcher, all these people that went into the early kind of efforts of this UI UX, their vision, what they were expecting to see in production, it really comes down to the QA team to match that process. And it's incredibly challenging. Testing those small UI changes every day and actually implementing the design perfectly into the development is probably one of the hardest parts of a design-led thinking in modern web development. There are just so many aspects that can go wrong. And that's because getting from here in your Figma platform or in your other design tool, getting from there into your actual browser with a built website, with a built web application, it often doesn't look like this in a linear pattern, right? It often looks a lot more like this. The design is ready. The designer finishes what they're required to build. They ship it in a ticket to another teammate, maybe a product manager. Product management is kind of at that point on the hook for getting it shipped to development, and also oftentimes puts their little emphasis into what is happening. They might have a little critique that they might think is easy enough to do for a developer and not actually have to go back to the design team to get it implemented in kind of the correct way or just changes slightly. Next up, after the product team even gets their hands on it, we now have the development team that it's ultimately their responsibility to get this thing built. And oftentimes they take liberties with things. They can maybe make a small change or giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something that was designed or thought of by the business team, maybe the way it actually gets implemented in the web browser isn't feasible. There might be an action, there might be an event that happens on the browser that just doesn't look right in an actual web setting, but maybe it looked right in the design setting. Well, here the developer might make a small change without actually ever consulting anybody else because they felt like they had to get it across the finish line. After that, once we're actually now implemented in production, you can kind of see the game of telephone that was played from going from the design and the design tool from the designer all the way through different various stakeholders into production. And we get something that's not completely different, but we get something that's slightly different at multiple levels. And that makes measuring what actually happened and what actually needs to change incredibly hard because everyone kind of has a different viewpoint on what was needed and then what actually was done. So oftentimes we get stuck in a way where teams aren't exactly aware of what was shipped because the last time they saw kind of their mock-up, they thought they gave their feedback and thought it was going to look like this. So again, this game of telephone is a huge burden on teams that want to ship clean UIs at a fast pace. And the main challenges of this implementation together are lack of communication between the growing group of stakeholders, right? It's not only the design team and the development team and then resulting in the QA team looking at things. It really has now become the product management team, maybe the VP of design. There's product marketers. There's other people in marketing or maybe sales that want to have an impact on what was shipped. All these teams don't really communicate in a linear fashion. So oftentimes that game of telephone, again, it can result in something happening that wasn't really intended. Also, during implementation now, with the plethora of frameworks, with the plethora of actual design tools, there are just a lot of small inconsistencies in the technology we use during implementation. So maybe something like React, it looks slightly different than another application that uses maybe another CSS framework that you can't get exactly to the pixel difference between the design that was done in Figma. That is happening more and more, again, as we use a kind of disparate amount of tools, and we're expecting those tools to be more accurate across the development lifecycle. So there's even outputs of design tools that give us the HTML, give us the JavaScript and CSS that actually make that design happen. Even that, because of just, again, all the differences that happen in between browser implementations, in between web implementations, there's still a lot of small inconsistencies that can happen. And lastly, there's no continued source of truth across the tool chain that is used in the design development lifecycle. There's no one tool, like a Git, let's say, that's really able to track not only the code, but also the design and the thinking that was going behind that. So really you get kind of siloed worlds that happen during the implementation phase. You just kind of have to throw it across tool chains. And once that happens, you get this break in thinking, and you get this a lack of context when it goes to make decisions, which all these challenges really stem in what Applitools was thinking when we built our latest tool, Centra. Applitools' main mission is to help teams of all sizes visually perfect their UI. And we've done that through UI regression testing. And now we're really getting into this new world where Centra is implementation collaboration for product delivery. So we're connecting teams across the entire design chain, and we're allowing them to track UIs, validate the UI looks correctly, and more collaborate easier and have visibility across that actual life cycle. So the benefits of Centra that we're seeing across teams is less UI drift, right? That difference between what's in Figma and what actually gets put in production, the incredible back and forth that is happening today, we're reducing that through, again, a centralized platform with Centra to do all of that work, to quickly have a feedback loop within one interface. That's what Centra is. It's also designed as docs. For QA teams, oftentimes, and we see it with eyes, we get a baseline or we get an application that we want to test, and we never really are aware of what the UI was supposed to look like. We just see the UI as it is today, and we're not really aware of any differences that happen between, again, the design process that was affected by maybe tens or more than that people. We're just seeing kind of what the developer, again, shipped. Centra gives us the ability to create almost a design as docs. What was done in Figma is exactly what should be done on the web in production once it's implemented. And then increase collaboration across the entire design process. Now, not only teams get to work on just mockups, they're now able to collaborate and communicate on things that may differ between the actual implementation. So teams, again, from product management, from design, from development to marketing, they're able to actually make comments, you'll see, on implementations and designs all in one interface. And really that leads us to be able to catch bugs earlier in the development process. So we're constantly trying to shift left testing and get validation happening earlier in the life cycle where it's cheaper to fix, less people are involved. This is taking shift left even, again, one step further into almost the full design process where developers are able to catch bugs. And when we say bugs, they're really just differences between what's being built and what was designed. So that back and forth process can happen quickly and efficiently as early as possible. So now I'm actually going to turn it over to Ayala to take a look and kind of a walkthrough of the application as it stands today. So we'll get to see some screenshots, and then we'll go to a live demo as well with Justin. So let's turn it over here. We'll go to the next slide, and let's walk through what we can actually get done with Centra.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So here's some features, some great features of things you can do with Centra. So first of all, it's very easy for the designer to upload their designs directly from Figma by easily paste the shareable link, and upload their design from their Figma account. And afterwards, simply compare the design and the implementation. So this is like a very important thing to do, to look at the design and implementation side by side. Yeah, and the next feature. So this is what you mentioned earlier, Dan, about the collaboration, how much it's important, and that we can really actually comment on the design and share it among all the stakeholders, including developers or product managers, not only people that have Figma or know how to use Figma. And this is a very simple way just to tag someone and ask for something or communicate about something. And easily you do that from the top bar area of the comment part, and click on the add comment and simply add a comment, whether on the design or the implementation part. Yes, and next. Yeah, this is something pretty cool. We can review the design and implementation different versions. That means that as a designer, if I change something in the design, I can simply sync my design in Centra, and I can review the different version and see and track those changes. And similar to that, I can do that also in the implementation. If the developer had done some changes, and we can upload again the implementation and track those changes along the way. And of course, we want to avoid those bugs before release, and we can open bugs and issues and give them a severity tag and track them easily also along the process. That can be simply done again from the top bar area by adding an issue and then resolve it after it's been completed and implemented, after it has been solved. And yes, and I think that will be the last one that we're showing here. Eventually, I would like to say, okay, I've reached the end of the process. The implementation was perfectly done, and I can approve this implementation or either reject that. So you can see in this project that I have a few implementation that were approved and a few that were rejected, and we can again track those and handle them, and it gives us really the full picture of where we stand with the design and implementation process. And now, Justin, it's your turn to give us the live demo. Thank you.
Was just saying, my name is Justin Eisen, and I am the product manager for Centra, along with Ayelet, my designer, and many others helped bring Centra to reality. And just to sort of re-emphasize what maybe others have said so far, our whole purpose of Centra was to build a very simple tool for all stakeholders along the design to implementation process to be involved and collaborate and make sure no surprises happen until your product is released. And so I'm going to go over and talk about some specific features, demo along what Centra is and what it can do. And just before I do that, I just want to say that Centra is free for everybody. You can create a team. You can invite many people that you want your team. Anybody can invite other users to the team that they need to. You could also belong to many other teams. We have that capability where, for instance, if I go here, you can see here I have 2 different teams that I'm a member of. Why would you want that? Maybe you are a freelance designer and you're working with several different companies. You could jump from one project to another, or maybe you work for a large organization and you have an iOS team, an Android team, a web team, and you could have different teams for that to collaborate on your designs and implementations. Okay, with that said, on the left here is our project pane. And see here, I have two different projects. One project here I imported from Figma, and the other one here I imported from my file system. And so that's the nice thing with Centra is it's design tool agnostic. So if you don't use Figma, no worries. You can upload your designs easily and have the same capabilities and collaboration. Here on the right are all my designs that are part of that project. And these are in this particular project here, you can see some designs are marked as approved, rejected, meaning people are already working on these different designs and collaborating. And once it's approved, in theory, it's ready to go on to the next step, whether that particular implementation is going to go to production or staging environment, and it's ready for testing. Regression testing could start being built. You could use eyes for doing visual testing. It's up to you. We have very easy filtering options. If I want to just see my approvals, my rejected, depending on what your role is within your team, you could use these filters to filter out the specific designs you want to see or by name. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the design viewer. So first off, our design viewer will show anybody that's actually viewing the design along with you. So you have an active representation of all the parties that are actively looking at the same design as you. You have different view options. So if I want, in this case, if I just want to see the design, I could go to this view. If I want to go to the implementation, I can see that, or go back to both. I have individual controls of each image I want. So if I want to zoom in with that specific image, I have that capability as well. As well as comments. Any comments that anybody on your team has made, you'll have a history thread of that. I could add a comment here, the reply back. Everything's sent through email notifications. Everybody will get a link and they could see specifically this specific comment if they want. Moving on, I could actually go and take a look at my next design by simply clicking this button here or clicking the arrows on my keyboard. And I can see this one was rejected, and I could actually see there was a bug that was entered for it. And so that's fine. Rejection of implementations occur because that's just the life cycle of iterating through an implementation until it's ready to match the design and everybody's happy with it. So this one has been rejected, so it's not ready yet. And everybody's been notified that it was rejected. And again, we'll go through this flow in a second, and I'll upload a new project so you can see how it all happens. I just want to go to this example here. Here is an example of I have my design and implementation. This one is actually approved. And so let's talk about history, what Ayelet talked about or touched on before. If I click on the history view, I could actually see all the revisions of the history and how this design has changed over time. So if I go to the original design, I can see here that this button was originally blue, and I added a comment saying it should be changed to a different color, and I can see the next revision of it, it was actually pink. And then finally, we ended up with making the button green. So we had the same concept for even implementations. I originally uploaded an implementation after I developed it, and I developed it with the blue button, or maybe other subtle changes or other things that were incorrect, and I entered a bug and I rejected it. The nice thing about this is we have a complete mapping between what was implemented to what the design was at the time. So if I go here and I see my info, not only am I going to get some metadata here about who added it and where it came from, I could actually view the design that it was actually rejected against. So I know throughout history of how my designs are evolving, I actually know what my implementations either approved or reject over time mapped to. So moving on, we, as I mentioned before, if I wasn't using Figma, I could just simply upload my the designs from the file system, which is easily done. You can see them here, same concept as Figma. And here, I'm going to add a new project. Again, we have two options from Figma or file system. Maybe perhaps in the future, we'll have more integrations with other design tools. And I'm going to show you the Figma integration. So I have this Figma file here. And as you can see here, it's actually just one single page, one single frame. And all I have to do to easily share this is click the share button, click the copy link. If I was a more restricted access, I could just share this Figma file with our Centra user, which if you run into that problem, you can read our documentation on how to do that. So here that I've actually copied that link, all I have to do now is paste it in here, click access, and now it's going to list the pages that are part of that Figma project or Figma file. For those of you that don't use Figma, a file in Figma is essentially a project, and then pages are flows. And a flow can be, say, login flow, and all frames and components that relate to anything with login would be in that page, for example. So here, once I click upload, it's going to pull in this frame, which is the design for Figma terminology. And now I have this design that was imported. So now our process begins. You can see here it's marked as new. I could click on here to open the viewer. I could inspect the new design that I have. You can see all the different components that are on there. But I see there's a problem here. There's all these shoes are facing this direction to the right. This one's facing left. And it might have been just a small oversight on the designer's part, or whomever was responsible. No biggie. And so I'll just add a comment, and I'll say, in this case, I'll just send to Ayelet and ask her to, I'll send a comment to ask her to fix it. Since she's on here, she can't reply back. She's part of the webinar, so I'll just go ahead and fix it myself. And I'll simply just do that by reverting the change that occurred. So now that this is actually reverted back, just to show you how syncing works within Centra, I'll just go here and click that ellipsis menu, and I'll sync this project with the Figma page. And so the nice thing about Centra is it only is going to import the actual designs that actually visually changed. So if you have a project in Centra that has anywhere from one design to 100 or hundreds, only the ones that change will get imported and updated. And now if I go back in here, I can see my design history, and I actually can see what my old design looks like to what it looks like now. So again, I see the evolution of my design, how my design is progressing. You could also use this for design-to-design comparison if you want to jump back and forth between different versions, just to let's see, compare those. You could use that as well for this part. So now that I'm at this point, my next step of the process would be to start the implementation process. And so you can see here, I have on the right side, I have no implementation, but I have 3 different options to upload an implementation. I could drag and drop files from my computer, browse a specific directory. I could use any snippet tool that I have that I want and just Control V to paste it into this UI. Or you could use our Chrome extension to capture the screenshot, which I will do. This is the screen I want. So here's our live site that we have as a demo site that compares to that Figma design that you just saw. And what I'll do is I'll use the Chrome extension, which I have already installed for Centra. And so within the extension itself, it has a couple different options. It has one to capture what is actually the viewable area of the screen. So if I want to capture just this, I would select it to the viewport. And of course, you can read more about this in our documentation on how it works. So let me go ahead and just capture this now to get the full page screenshot. It's copied now to my clipboard on my computer, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste that. And so now I have this implementation added. All my team members are going to get a notification that this implementation was added. They come and check it out and start collaborating on it. But right off the bat, I could clearly see there's a big red shoe on here, which is not anywhere like the design. It's somewhat, you can see these shoes down here kind of match what's over there. And so this is an issue. I could simply just go and create an issue, give it more details if I want to, tag a team member. And now they've received a notification that there's an issue. But that's fine. Like I mentioned before, this is all part of the process of implementing a product from a design is you're going to have most likely multiple iterations until everybody's happy with the final product. And that's the whole purpose here. So now that I've actually had a bug, there's an issue, I'm going to head and just reject that. And let's go ahead and capture a new implementation. And voila, I fixed it. It's that simple. So we'll capture this new implementation. You can see here, it's taking another full page screenshot. Let's go back in here. And it looks great. So compared to the design and the implementation here, I think we're pretty good. I think, based on my opinion, I'd be happy with this. Depending on your organization, some organizations who I've spoken to, some are, must be pixel to pixel matching. That's up to you and however your processes flow. Like for instance, here, like the bottom here, there's this blue square in the design, but the developer who implemented this added chevron to the blue button. That could be an issue, maybe not. The majority may be okay with it, and we could go ahead and just approve it. And now I have a history again, as what I showed you before, to what my design used to look like, to what it looks like now, and we're good. And this could be, in theory, shipped. And with that, I think I will conclude my demo.
All right. So yeah, you can join the waitlist, put that into your browser. You should get right there. It is a waitlist right now. We are letting people in that are very keen on using it. So we will know who you are from this webinar, and we'll be able to expedite the process. So give it a try. Head to that link right there and sign up for the waitlist, and we'll get you in as soon as possible. Before that, though, let's answer a couple of questions for everyone. We had a couple from the crowd, which is great. The first one is actually a couple easy integration ones. Justin, can I upload Adobe XD design files into the design portion?
You can, as long as they have to be in PNG format. So if there's a way to convert those into PNG, yes.
So
Okay,
actually,
awesome.
just to add to that, you can upload any image from any design tool that you're using. So there are the formats that we support, but it can be from Adobe XD, it can be from any other tool very easily. And from Figma, you also have this smooth automated integration, but you can do it with any tool that you're using.
Yes.
All right. Another integration question. Does Centra integrate with Jira? I'm guessing on the bug reporting side. So can you automatically put those bugs over into Jira?
We do have on our roadmap to have that capability. So yes, it will in the future be available.
Okay, and we have that in eyes too currently, so definitely something we're familiar with. And I guess the same question was for Azure. I'm guessing it's for Azure boards. So do we integrate with Azure boards currently right now? So again, that's going to be a no right now, maybe eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Not currently, but
yeah, for Jira we have the support as we have in eyes today. For Azure, not yet. But you can still just create bugs inside Centra without the direct integration.
All right, awesome. And does Centra have mobile support?
Meaning using, not currently, so that's another thing on our roadmap. But in the short term, no, but long term, yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, here's a longer one. Well, I work on the design and it's not quite ready, and I don't want like a revision to be synced. Is there any control over that process, or is it just automatic?
Yeah, so actually you have full control on that. Of course, that while you're working, you don't want to publish that to a large audiences. And therefore, whenever you wish to, whenever the design is ready for that, you can just click on the sync button and you'll have those inside Centra. So the answer is yes.
Okay, awesome. Let's do this one too. Many times the design changes after we already implemented the requested screen. We don't have any good way to understand that this is the reason for the mismatch. Can Centra help with that scenario?
So this is actually a very common scenario. Sorry, Justin, would you like to answer that?
No, go on.
Okay. And it happens a lot. So Centra is built to help with this challenge. You have the full history of the design revisions, of the implementation revisions. We have all the information about each and every revision, and it is very easy to track the process this way. Whenever the design changes, you get notified. You also have the indication in the user interface. So actually, this is very, very helpful with this specific scenario.
All right, awesome. Couple roadmap questions, actually. So let's get this one. What about a central Applitools portal for our eyes instance and our Centra instance? So we want to talk a little bit about how your login will come over to Centra.
Yeah, so currently you do, if you are an actually eyes account, if you already have an account with us, you could use that to register and create an account automatically within Centra. So your account would be used for both platforms. What about, let me just read the question again, just so I understand if that's exactly it.
Yeah, we don't have one place to see both sides yet.
No.
They are separate.
They are. They're currently right now they're two separate products.
Yeah. All right. When I view a design side by side, can I zoom in and out of the presentation, or do I just kind of get the still image there?
Yeah, you could absolutely zoom in, zoom out of each individual one by themselves.
All right. And then I actually think we just have one more. This one's a good one too. Can Centra use eyes to find issues between the design and implementation automatically?
No, right now it's 100% manual. So it's for your eyes in this case to review the differences between the two.
All right, I think that is all. If anybody has any others, feel free to put them in the Q&A. Generally awesome, and thank you for the good back and forth. We'll give it 1-2 more minutes. Oh, all right, there's one more I missed. Let me see. Oh, I think it's about CSS generation. Yeah, I can answer this. Does Centra generate CSS code example? So no, there's no extrapolation of the design into the implementation. So there's definitely a couple tools that do that kind of output code from the design, and then you can implement that. We'd still be able to be using Centra after that process to still verify that it was implemented correctly. But there's actually no output happening. All right, a couple more questions. You're good. Can Centra detect pixel perfect bugs? So can it detect anything? Kind of what we were talking about before, I guess.
Yeah, same before. No, it's if you can detect pixel perfect, then it would be for your eyes to do that.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone on this call, for showing up today. Super appreciate it. Great job showing off Centra. Thank you, everyone who came.
Give Centra a try. You can sign up here, go on the wait list, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll see your interest, see that you were in the webinar, and definitely try to get you in there. Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, and we hope to see you soon at another event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.